Good morning. Lord, help me make this video. Um, so I got a couple of downloads like in a row. I hadn't really planned to make a video or anything. I was open to it, but wasn't really getting anything. And yeah, I just was doing other stuff, and I got like three different things, and I was like, okay. So before they start backing up too much, because I can be long-winded, I'm going to start on some of these. So let me kind of go backwards, I guess. The first things that I thought about, this is like from yesterday or maybe a couple days ago, but um, I was listening to some stuff about some more, once saved, always saved business. And I actually listened to a really interesting thing last night on TikTok that was separate, that was talking about religious OCD, which is a thing because the devil is just, is there anyone more busy than him? Is there anyone more busy than him? So there's this thing called religious OCD where you just kind of have a voice, what do you call it? Just intrusive thoughts and a voice that's just constantly like, well, are you saved? Are you saved? Are you saved? But how? But why? How are you saved? But didn't you do this thing? Like, are you saved? Are you saved? And you're just tormented by the idea of being saved or not. And, did you blaspheme against the Holy Spirit today? And then, you got the Tourette's voice, like saying horrible things about the Holy Spirit, like, oh no, you just did it. Like that is one of the most, when I tell you these demons do not have jobs, they don't have families to go home to, they got no other priorities. They got no vacations. They got nothing to look forward to but their own torment, and then maybe possibly tormenting you. Like, that is the most craziest thing to have to deal with. But so it was actually encouraging because she was just talking about how God, was speaking to her and showing her different verses and just wanting to help anyone else who may have these problems with the verses that were helping her. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that is just, I rebuke the devil. That's what you need to do. But anyway, so I imagine that when people who are trying to help the once saved, always saved people, these are the people they're trying to help. Like, that's who I imagine in my mind. These people who have somehow gotten obsessive compulsive about it and gotten themselves into this weird thing. But honestly, that is a separate issue. There's a separate problem. Like, it's not even really about you being like, that's not an intellectual thing that can be fixed with intellect. That's something that's just tormenting you. And it probably has something to do with other things in your life, something else that you didn't feel like you had control over, and it's spilling over into your relationship with God. Like, that has nothing to do with doctrine. But so, and I think by and large that anybody, if you listen to anyone who has that type of testimony where you have obsessive compulsive thoughts, it's like, you got to close the refrigerator door 7 times or your family's going to break up. That is not something that can be fixed with knowing the Bible, like maybe inadvertently because you just come closer to God and those things like drop off of you or whatever. But that's not even something that you can argue with a once saved, always saved blanket. So, again, I don't know. I feel like I've talked about this like 10 times. And it's an overkill a little bit, but I'm only doing it because I keep coming across it. And it's not like I'm like, I keep coming across it, so let me do it again so you guys can understand what it is. But nobody's like watching my videos. But like, I don't know. I feel like it needs to be clarified as much as possible. So I'm constantly trying to get it as clear as I could possibly get it. So I came up with this like analogy thing. And the reason why the people who are anti once saved, always saved, like myself, is because the main reason is because it is not safe. And hopefully this illustrates it. And it's very similar to the parable that Jesus gives um, in about the tax collector versus the religious leader that's praying and he's saying, "Thank God that I'm not like that sinner over there." And then you got a tax collector who can't even go into the temple because of uh, his own conviction and contrition. And he's like, "Lord, have mercy on me, a sinner." And Jesus makes it very clear that, one of those is going to walk away from that um, with God's blessing, basically. And that it's like this is something that we should always be able to, like, I feel like Jesus gave us enough examples that we should always be able to drill down to this fundamental thing. And then also understand that this is constantly getting this is something that we constantly have to work on. It's like, because we're in a fallen state, it's like I don't know, some type of disease where you get all of the scar tissue removed or something, but then it like builds up over time, and then like every 10 years you got to go in and get it removed, and there's no cure, there's nothing more you can do about it, that's just what you got to do. That's what this is like. It's like we think that we read in the Bible like, oh, this is what they were like, and we're not like that anymore because now we're Christian. It's like, no, now we've got Christian proud flesh that's got to be cut off every 10 years and whatever. It's like every culture, it doesn't matter if it's even within Christian culture, there's going to be one of those type of people that do not gain the approval of God, and one of those people that do. And it's always the person who does not feel worthy because they're correct. You're not worthy. You're never worthy. So, and it's like they recognize their state. Like, they're like, I am a mess. And when you're doing the will of God, when you're in ministry, when you're doing these things, it's a lot harder. You got people, if you really are doing the work and you're doing ministry and you're getting the feedback and people are being healed, that is a very strange position to be in, because the feedback loop that you're constantly getting is one that you are approved of God and you're doing great. But you should never lose that fundamental, somebody who's down in the dirt for reals really feels their miserable wretch state. So you've got to be in a place where you recognize that you're a miserable wretch. Like that's not a non-negotiable. That's a non-negotiable thing. Like that's what you are. And the closer that you get to God, the more you see it, because it's just like the light gets brighter and all that's what happens. Like, yes, you get free, and yes, you make progress and all these things that the world is trying to get you to do. For them, it's like, oh my gosh, it's a functioning human being that's good to other people. Like that's top tier for them. But for Christians, like, because you're never not on the treadmill. You're doing this until you die, and it's not like it's like constant work, but it's like even when you improve from your initial state of being saved and you see a clear before and after in your life, like even if that happens, like you still need to understand, like even though you're eons from that other person, and you're doing like it would take you decades to get to the place that you got to just from day on day one from God. Not only do you still have a ways to go, but you're never going to get there because perfection is just not achievable. And that is what our spirit craves, is perfection. So if you're a Christian and you get to a good enough spot, you're like, yeah, but I'm doing better than that person, that person. Like you're you're just as bad. Like you're in need of saving. You're in need of saving now again. The person who knows that they're in need of saving is in a better place than you are, who doesn't even know. So we see that when Jesus is doing that parable, and if you come away with that going, oh yeah, Jewish this, Jewish leaders, blah blah blah, and tax collectors, then you need some more time with it. You need some more time with it because you got to see the parallels in our own culture. So back to the once saved, always saved parable. Okay, so let's say that this is the argument for why once saved, always saved is bad. Let's say that you are in the world. Like maybe you were a Christian for a while and you're like, this sucks. I'm not doing this anymore. Everybody's mean and like, I'm just going to go back to what I was doing. So you go back to what you're doing and you feel bad. You miss God, but you don't have all of this other baggage. That's all stuffed down and you just don't have to think about it. You're just living your life. And, every once in a while you want to call your friend, but you don't, blah, blah, blah. Right. And then maybe you're in that for decades, 20 years, 30 years. And, maybe you're taking drugs, nothing too much, you're just microdosing. Maybe you end up like those dudes that died during the Kansas City game outside, 3 dudes just outside and froze to death and nobody knows what happened. It's because they just instantly went to another dimension and was like, oh crap. So let's say that's you. And you're going and you're dying. Your death has come upon you suddenly. And you're going, oh crap. I know where I'm going. I know where I'm going because I am not in right standing with God. I'm not in right standing with God. I messed around thinking I had plenty of time. I was going to do a deathbed thing. Deathbed is here. Deathbed is smacking me in the back of my head. And now I'm in trouble. And you're dreading and you don't want to meet God. You're whatever. Okay. God loves to give mercy out. He loves to give mercy out. He loves to be himself in a situation that makes sense, which is when he's God, when he's in charge and he's supreme, and you come to him with the proper posture. And then if you're a criminal and you need your debt erased, he loves doing that. If you're about to die and you're begging him for mercy and you get mercy, he loves doing that. He loves doing that. He loves being able to do that. When he can't do that? When you don't have any concept that any of that is happening and you have no idea that you can't go into a courtroom and not know where you are in the natural and not know that the judge holds your life in his hands in the natural, but you can do that here. And if the devil can get you to just kind of be out of your mind and delulu, and then from there you transgress and you do a lot of things. Like it's so much of it is in your power. It's not even about like, oh, look at this thing that you racked up. It's how you react. And so if you dig your heels in and you insist that when you get in front of God, like, no, this is a mistake, or let's talk about the stuff that you did. Like the devil wants you to be just completely out of pocket, like him and his people were. He doesn't want you to have the contrite, repentant, proper posture when you go before God. So again, and this is coming from a lot of near-death experiences too. Obviously, people didn't die, but a lot of the reason why they didn't die, and we can hear what they're saying, is because they went before God with the proper posture. I don't think if they had the wrong heart that we would even hear their stories. So, and most of them, I'd say 90% of them, they'd say, go back and tell the story. And that's a big part of, like, it might take 10 years or however long, but God will tell them, it's time to start telling people what you saw or what you witnessed or what you did. And we think that's about, like, letting people know that heaven is real. And it could be that, but it could be letting people know, like, this is what God is like, and this is what you ought to be like. Even people who didn't think that they would have a chance before God, like they didn't have any religious, nothing to fall back on, and they got in front of God, and they were surprised. They were surprised, and they instantly, like, found the proper posture, found the proper way to deal with Him. And it's really annoying when people are like, "Oh yeah, God's not like how everybody says He is." It's like, it literally says exactly what the whole thing you just described is literally could be from the Bible. People are like, "No, it's not that. It's so different." It's like, no, it's not. Like, I really got, like, annoyed. Like, I was listening to one the other day, and the guy was talking about how he met God, and it was this ball of light and love and pure light and all of these things, pretty standard. And then he's like, "Yeah, I didn't want to tell my Christian family because it wasn't going to line up with their beliefs." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, okay." It just was annoying. It was like, okay, bro, we're the only one talking about pure love and light. Like, we're the only ones that even have that as a reference for who God is at all. Like, why would they not get it just because it isn't the pigeonhole thing that you think it is? Like they wouldn't have a grid for it. And granted, sometimes they don't have a grid for it. There's some that they come back and they have a dubious experience. It's a little bit strange. Maybe they don't see Jesus or something like that, and the family's like, that ain't right. And sometimes they're right, or sometimes they've earned the right to be skeptical. But this one is literally like, most Christians, as long as it doesn't contradict. Although, again, near-death experiences are not, they should just be considered testimonies as any other. But unfortunately, the church at large doesn't really recognize them, and the poor NDE people have to go off and have their own meetings with people that understand them. But anyways, back to what I was saying. So let's say that's you're a believer, but you're backslidden. But let's say that you're not a believer at all, and you die suddenly, and those are the type of thoughts that go into your brain. And the thing is, like, the other thing that you learn from watching near-death experiences is, like, there's plenty of time between the death and the actual journey to God to have a change of mind, to start redoing this paradigm thing. And a lot of people within those little increments of time manage to, I won't say that they could just completely change their destiny from that, but you can come to some conclusions if you're willing to. Part of the problems here is that it's just so hard to get people to, like, change their mind. Like, again, it goes back to, like, how much of this depends on our control and our decisions. And let me finish my parable, even though I want to, like, say something about that. What should I do? Should I go down the rabbit trail, or should I stay on topic? I'm going to go down the rabbit trail because I know what my topic is. So Like, I just heard a podcast talking about apparently Richard Dawkins. And I always get them confused. I'm like, wait, didn't he die? And my dad's like, no, that's Stephen Hawking. I'm like, oh, whatever. Big bad atheist that's like ruining people's lives. So I just heard that he is like, hey man, let's keep England Christian. And I was like, oh my God, dude, what? Like, oh, what? Like, naturally he would want to because that's what he grew up in. And he spent his whole life crapping on it. And now it's, the Islam influence is like, I mean, it's been like that in the UK for at least a decade and maybe longer. I think now it's long enough that maybe a generation has gone by. And it is getting real different around there. It's getting super, like it already was. And it was always like, oh no, this is scary. Well, now it's been happened. And now it's like first generation coming up. And everything is like, everything that made England is just waning and just becoming like going the way of the dinosaur. But not only that, it's taking with it like all of the sound, logical things that make sense that everybody was accustomed to because Christianity. And so he's like, yeah, I might not be a Christian, but I might not just go along with the dogma and the doctrine, but culturally, blah blah blah, and really tried to like save this position. Like people weren't looking at him like remember that dude in Titanic that told the guy like take all the, we don't need this many boats. This boat can't even sink. Like remember that guy? Like that's, and then the guy gave him the side eye when he tried to jump in one of the boats. Like that was the moment. It's like, and he just is like, well, but Christian culture is. It's like, bro, wow, just wow, because it's kind of like this is you're partly to blame for this, like big partly. Like you did all of that evangelism and made Christianity like it was nothing, and then it was dangerous, and literally anything else, please. And you did that for so long, and you eroded it and made it something that could just be easily discarded. And guess what? Now that people are completely bonkers, and you're smarter than everybody. Now you're smart enough to be like, hey, that was a bad idea. And guess what? Nobody believes you. Like, so I want to go ahead and call it and say that Richard Dawkins is going to become a Christian. Like, he's going to have a dark night of the soul, which is fine. Like, that's what Jesus died for. We love a big fish. Like, we'd love to get Richard Dawkins, but he's going to instantly, if he becomes a Christian, when he becomes a Christian, I should say, in Jesus' name, because I mean, it's already, you can, when you see those wheels turning, somebody like Richard Dawkins, he's got to come to the end of himself. He's got to get like, it's got to be like a cartoonish thing where he's just like a rat in a cage, and he realizes like he cannot escape the logic, because he was already illogical before, and now he's just like he's got to reconcile it now if he wants to keep his sanity. And so something like that, like this, like the men's minds and wills is the battle. It's not your sin. It's not your sin getting in the way. It's your weird blindness and your weird condition that's getting in the way, and your will to, because I guarantee you, if Richard Dawkins converts, we can only sit at home as Christians and hope that becomes a huge beacon, a huge testimony, that better than what we could ever do, whatever apologetics debate thing that we could ever do. Will atheists then go, well, if Richard Dawkins is converted to Christianity, then I should? Are they going to do that? No, they're not. No, they are not, because it was never about evolution and atheism being logical. They were already suppressing the truth in wickedness, and the atheism was giving them a support. It was giving them evidence. It was bolstering them. And that and yeah, they fooled a lot of people into coming with them because everybody was so jolly and happy about it. But it's those times when you see that somebody like Richard Dawkins, if he converts and no one else really goes with him, no one has the courage to go with him, you see that it's not about intellect, and it never was about intellect. It's this will thing that God, you think God is able to get into there and change stuff around and like just break it wide open. And maybe he is, but he doesn't want to do that. He wants you to give it to him. He wants you to open up your fist into an open hand and receive the gift. He will not unclench your fists, even though he literally could. He could just use atoms to do it. The tiniest particle there is, but he's not going to do it. So since he's not going to do it and you're not going to do it, that's why there's so much. That's why it's such a battle. It's not about the sin, but Satan wants you to think that it's about the sin, because if you think that it's about the sin, then you'll clench even harder, because it's like, it's not fair that God is doing these things to me because I'm a pretty good person. Like, why would he send me to hell? Now it's like unclenchable. So, but you want to say, well, why doesn't God just appear? That's not going to make you unclench your fist. And the fact that you have a will. Like, haven't you ever seen anybody like be like, so I don't care? They call the police. The police says, let them show up. I don't care. Like, you can't. So back to my parable. So we already did the backsliding believer thing. Now imagine that you are a Christian and you're in church and you're like, well, is God going to forgive me if I do bad stuff? And everybody's like, oh, yeah. Everybody in your church is like, listen, you're saved. Once you're saved, that's it. Once you're saved, that's it. The Bible says blah, 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 multiple citations of scriptures. You can't do it. You can't undo it. You can't redo it, undo, whatever. Okay? So you're like, cool. So then you go around in the joy that you can never lose your salvation, just doing all manner of nonsense. You show up to church on Sunday. Maybe you're a little hungover. Maybe you're a little tired from, maybe you came straight from the club. And so you haven't slept the night before, whatever. But most of them, by and large, you show up. Maybe you even join the choir. Maybe you're really doing ministry stuff, but you're also doing this other stuff, and you're just keeping it under wraps because, it makes people feel uncomfortable, especially like in a church setting. So you don't let anybody really like in on what you're doing, like to the point where maybe you're just like on a double life situation. And you feel bad. You feel like a conviction. You feel the conviction, but it's just like, you think, well, that's the standard. That's the standard feeling that you get when you do something bad. And then you ask God for forgiveness and you just believe that he's going to forgive you because once saved, always saved. And so let's say you die in that state. And you're not even worried. You're not even scared. You're like, oh, I'm going to meet God. And, it's like, maybe you're like, oh, God forgives me. Like, again, because you're so used to doing that, you just make a habit of doing that. And I won't even say you get up there. You just instantly start plummeting. And you're confused. You're totally confused. You're like, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? Like, of the two positions between somebody who knows that they're a sinner and knows that they're in the midst of of their sin and that they die in the middle of it and they feel the weight and the gravity of the situation versus a lukewarm Christian, because that's what you are, who is, there's something in the term lukewarm that makes it like it's undetectable. Like, I'd rather you be hot or cold, because hot, we know what hot is. We know what cold is. It's like that's going to make you go jump either way. Lukewarm is like when you pee on yourself in the pool. It's like, did something even happen in a jacuzzi or something? Like, that's what it is. That's what you are as a lukewarm Christian. You're just in your own pee, just totally fine. Because everyone else is peeing and it's all the same. Like, so, and then in that state, you suddenly meet your demise. You don't even know to be scared. You don't even know to be scared. Like, why would you set someone up to be in that situation? Like, why would you, like, believers are susceptible. And I guess that's also the thing, too. It's like, I think if you're a more seasoned Christian, maybe, because I have come across a couple of channels lately, and I have noticed, like, maybe, like, when people are, like, annoying me and I feel like I have to, like, rebut them or something, it's like, maybe this is just all, like, new Christian problems where they come in, where they're new and they're just like, I don't like this term backslidden, because I feel like it just makes people, it's like, bro, we've been using this for hundreds of years, bro. You just got saved 6 months ago. Like, I hear your thing. Like, why don't you put it in the complaint box and we'll get to it later. Like you gotta be sympathetic for why we're not sympathetic about your whatever. So, um, anyways, so yeah, once saved, always saved is just ridiculous. I would never, like, you're not safe just because you became a Christian. If anything, you're still in danger, if not more so, because yeah, the devil is going to leave you alone initially because he had a right to bother you. Once you become saved, he does not have a right to bother you anymore. He just switches your file and he takes it upstairs to the people who get you to crumble your own situation, which is not any more fun. It's not any more fun. And that's why a lot of people decide to backslide and leave. That's why the only thing that can really get you, keep you, is love for God, because this place is a gauntlet of demons until we die, because that's just what it is. We got to sin nature. That's what it is. This is what it is to know good and evil, since we wanted to know it so bad. So here's you knowing it. Here's you feeling that evil when it comes around and feeling that good when it comes around. Here's you over analyzing it and having like, well, but is that right? And is that right? Is that right? Am I saved now? Am I saved now? Is that really, did I really, like, all of these things that are available to us now? It's just like, but we're also cut off from God because we don't have the perfection. So we have to sort of spiritually remain in him. He remains in us. So anyways, yeah. So I thought about that analogy. And then I thought about this other analogy about why there's so much evil in the world, because I keep hearing this question and then I keep thinking, and then something sparks me thinking of it in a different way. So here's why there's so much evil in the world. At first I was going to say, like, why is jail so violent? Like, but this place isn't really like jail. Like, I wouldn't use that term. It's not really a jail, like a holding cell. And then I remembered something even better than that. Okay, so remember when we had that big Katrina came through? It was like 20 years ago now, which is insane. So we had Hurricane Katrina came through New Orleans, and then uh, I mean, whatever, everything was covered in water for a long time. Well, then they had all the people that had been displaced, all the people that didn't have homes. They were at the stadium. They housed them at the stadium. And do you remember when the stadium? Um, I don't know if it just like didn't have power or whatever, but like it was completely like non-habitable, and none of the toilets was working, and you had all of these people, uh, whatever. So that is what this world is. That's what this world is. So, and I sort of alluded to this before when I had answered that question, why there's so much evil in the world. And basically my answer was like, why do you want it to be like, why are you wanting this place to be great? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But if you still have the framing that this is where you live your best life, and this is the life that really, really matters, like, that's not really a good answer. So I feel like understanding that this place is like the stadium after Hurricane Katrina, and that's your framing. Like, you need to reframe what you think this world is. This is not, yes, life is a gift. That is true. Everyone agrees on that. But don't let the devil trick you. If somebody in that situation of Hurricane Katrina with the non-working toilets, if somebody came and put up flashing lights like Vegas and started booming some music, nobody's going to be fooled into thinking like, hey, this place is actually banging. It's got some good stuff about it. Some people might, though. Some people, they get flashing lights. They get some gambling system going on. Maybe napkins becomes money. You know what I'm saying? Now you can be rich. Like, that is what this world is, and that's what the devil is doing. He's deceiving us and telling us like, live your life to the fullest, live like you're dying and you only live once and blah blah blah, really trying to get us to believe that this is where we should put all our chips in and find that person that this is what life is about. It's about getting that job and all of these earth-based ambitions, and you just overly emphasize all of that stuff, that it feels like you cannot skip it. You cannot miss it. You have to do that. And then there's all of this violence, all of these, whatever. The stray bullet hit the baby. It's like, oh my gosh, why is God allowing the stray bullet to hit the baby? Doesn't he know that she only has one life to live? And that now she doesn't get to live this, to do this awesome thing in the football stadium after a hurricane that doesn't have any power? Like, and I mean, that's true. That's true. And it's really hard. Like, I see all the time how people, you feel like you have to sort of walk a fine line. A lot of Christians, they still have, like, they're still 10 toes down in this world sometimes. And to be worldly, to be a friend of the world, is to care a lot about stuff here. And yeah, we sort of have a pretty good handle on, we don't have to listen to Beyonce. We don't have to, tune into this TV show, and we don't have to do all of these worldly things. But that's just weird enough to make us like not fit in. There's still the major things. Like, you still don't need to be sniffling hot, sniffling crying because your 90-year-old granny is gone. Like, let granny go and fly. Let go, granny go fly. Like, you're gonna see her. Like, we still have these attachments. We still have these attachments that, don't have to like right away, like just fall off of us. But over time, You ought to be able to just be like, when are we getting to heaven? Especially now. Especially now when you can see this thing is winding down and you don't even have to die. We won't even have to die. I have spent so much time trying to contemplate that. It feels like, am I worthy to get raptured? Like, it's not even the idea like that, oh, we're just going to escape the trouble. Like, it's the not dying. Everyone who's escaped the trouble had to die. And some of us, we won't all sleep. We won't all sleep. That is crazy. That's crazy. We're just going to be wide awake, alive as we transition. Like, that is wild. And if you don't think that God would take a moment to do that at some point in time, that's too cool for him not to do. That's too cool for him not to do. He's got to do that at some point, as soon as it's lawful to do it. So that's going to happen. Anyways, but yeah, like the people who feel like, hey, I think we're about to like literally leave. Like, the hallmark of being a believer that believes in this, you should just feel the care of anything just falling off. It's just like, and that's been like that for at least a year for me, much longer for some other people, where you're just like, you don't want to, like, you're just like, dude, I don't care. I don't care anymore. You feel the attachments going away. And so there's such a stark contrast between, and you know what? You're living a better life in the meantime. It's not like, you can't let everything just go to nothing. A shout out, like, sorry for that lady who sold her house. Like, what are you selling your house for? To get money? To do what with it? But like, whoever sold her house because she said the rapture is coming, like, I wouldn't even say that's an extreme. That's just like, why'd you do that? But like, for the people that know that they have to keep things moving and running, but they're still like emotionally gone. It is nice to have a less of an attachment to stuff. Like, you are living a lot more simply. So, we should be doing this more. And it's looking like we won't have a choice soon. It helps you to not make poor decisions and know immediately what the right decision is when you're not attached to anything, any physical material thing. And you don't have to be removed from it to be detached. You just have to just be in a certain place spiritually. So, the people who are going, well, the people that are trying to, and I sympathize. If you're 20 years old, you've been wanting to get married since you were a child, and I get that. And I'm sorry that you may not have your wedding, you may not meet your person, you may not have your honeymoon night if Jesus comes back and blows that trumpet. But at the same time, I would hope that you would be getting such a memo internally of the greater reality that you get to be in, that stuff starts fading in the background and you just let it go. And you're just like, well, I guess I'll never be able to compare one to the other. I'm just going to know the supreme, and that's all I'm ever going to know. And not be like, wait, I got to do this earthly thing. It's like, you're about to get yourself hemmed up. You're about to turn into a pillar of salt for literally no reason. Because it's not all that. Literally everyone else that has been through stuff down here can tell you it's not enough to miss out on heaven and be like, wait. I am never in my life going to tell God, wait. Like, you have got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. So, by all means, if we all have an instinct to live and to survive and to struggle to survive, or, fight to survive to a degree. And, it shouldn't be this pathological thing in any direction. But honestly, like, this is a stadium left over after a hurricane with poop in all of the toilet stalls. That's what this place is. And you're talking about why is there so much evil in the world? Like, which would be the equivalent of like, why is it so dirty? Like, if you're really real, why is it so dirty in here? Why is everything a mess? And it's like, because you all have to poop and the power doesn't work. Like what, but the way that people are complaining about it, it's like, this should be a Four Seasons. Why is it not? Didn't you create all of this? It's like, yeah, I did. And then somebody came and sabotaged it. And instead of just killing everybody right away just because someone else sabotaged it, I went ahead with the plan. So you pick up a broom because this is what it is. Like, this is not the place. Like, and it's not like, you can complain. We all understand complaining, but to be like, I know for a fact that God isn't real, because if he was, why is this place all messed up? And it's just like, because this place should be a paradise. And you know what? It's astounding that you can go any place on this earth and there's still some paradise places. And I guarantee you, a big part of that is because there's not a lot of people there. There's not a lot of people there. It's untouched and it's a paradise. That should give you a big old clue right there. So yeah, it gets hard. Everyone is like having to pitch in, and it's tough and it smells. But there's still joy to be had. There's still experiences to be had. And when you have the Holy Spirit, honey, we done fooled this whole earth into thinking like this is easy. Like you can just, that like we just naturally, that science. I mean, science owes its whole life to Christians and hospitals and orphanages and anything. The notion of a nonprofit organization is a Christian thing. So, we fooled people into making it look easy, making it look like it has nothing to do with the Spirit, because the Spirit is invisible. But that's all God. That's all God working through humans, because this place is a dumpster fire. And the way that God can make an oasis in the midst of a dumpster fire, have us having golden ages and all type of stuff, because he's our God, and he can give us the rain and season and all of these things, and it causes everything to flourish. And you're just like, woo! And then everybody's like, you know what? We're so awesome. We could just do this by ourselves. And then it just deteriorates and the cycle begins again. Okay, so I'm almost done, right? So this is the last thing this is like the main reason why I picked this thing up. And I don't even know who's going to like hear this, but this is my platform, so I'm going to use it. So I was thinking about Islam, and I don't know, watching something. I don't know what I had to be triggered by something, but just thinking about, I watched a couple of really good like apologetic videos, and people who really have like the knowledge and the patience to really sort of debate about this Quran and about the Bible. And something about the when I had that premonition, or not premonition, but that revelation about the culture and how their religion is cultural, basically. And that's why they think our religion is cultural, and that all Christians are Christians the same way that Muslims are Muslims. And that just opened this whole thing for me with that, because it was a little intimidating before that, obviously. But, I don't think that we even really need to debate over the holy books, because the reality is what they would need to do to convert is what anybody anywhere else needs to do to convert. Like, if I had to talk to a Muslim, I would just tell them, like, They know Jesus, they're familiar with Jesus. So, you just tell them, like, okay, Jesus, basically, we believe, or not even we believe, but it's just like, what you have to do is follow Jesus, and he's going to lead you to a different way of life. Like, he leads you to new life. So, because the culture is the enemy. It doesn't matter whose culture it is. The culture is the enemy. Our culture is the enemy. Like, we've proven that many times over. The culture is what's going to get you hemmed up. So you have to abandon your culture, abandon mother and father. Like, that's in the Gospels. And this is what it seems like Jesus is truly talking about. Every time you think you got him pegged and you can be like, yeah, I know exactly, like, this is what I would say, and then I would go to this in the flow chart. It's like, no, Jesus isn't talking about any of that. He's talking about you as an individual person. You have to decide to leave everything to follow him and to receive life, abundant life. Just like talk up the abundant life. And if that appeals to anybody, show them how to do it. Let them know what the stakes are. Like, because the stakes are the same. Maybe there's not threats of beheading and stoning in America, but you're going to get cut off. You're going to lose all your stuff. You're going to lose your, I think for us, it's our wallet. When it hits our wallet, that's like the big thing for us. We have to, like, start over from scratch. Like, that's really hard when everything in this country is about building something, and when you successfully build something and then you have to give it all up, that's really hard. It's super hard. So, in countries where it's not like that culturally, uh, it's not as difficult. But, if that person responds to the claims of what Jesus can do for you and what Jesus gives you, then you don't even need to, like, we can do the books later. The books aren't even the thing. Like, unless there's somebody who's, like, devout in their religion or whatever. But, I mean, as we have seen, it's a cultural religion. So what do they know what devout even is? If that's what the culture is wanting you to do, and it's kind of like aggressive, like, be Muslim or else, be Hindu or else. So, yeah, you just call them out into the wilderness, which is what Jesus always did. I mean, Jesus did that, was doing that within Judaism. Within Judaism, he was calling people to be born again. He was calling them out of their, a tradition that was largely instituted by God and was God's. But it became, it wasn't, if it was causing the people, I won't say it itself, but the people were dying. So there's no point in keeping Judaism in all of its splendor if the people within it are dying. So, like, he had to come and, like, save the people within his own religion. So, yeah, and then Christians are doing the same thing, saving people within their religion. It's not safe. It's not safe just because you're a Christian. Like, you can, like, I feel like I've been talking about this entire time. Like, you can still lose the plot within the movement itself. So, yeah, Islam is just the same thing. It's the same thing that you do anywhere else. And you just, if it appeals to them, if God is speaking to them and tugging on their heart, like, you just break it down like Jesus did initially. Like, I don't know. That's just something I was thinking about. I didn't really say it as well, obviously. I never do, but all right. Well, it's almost an hour, which is kind of ridiculous, but I kind of expected that. Okay, well, now I gotta find a freaking title for this crazy meandering video that I just made, and I will talk to y'all soon.